Here we go again. Jonathan Rea dominated proceedings here on Saturday with a pole record, race lap record, and a stunning flag-to-flag victory. The reigning champion has now set his sights on becoming the first rider since Neil Hodgson back in 2003 to win the opening 4 races on the bounce. But it won't be easy as both Ducati and Yamaha are stronger than ever. Race 2 at the Chang International Circuit in Buriram in Thailand is just moments away and is sure to be an absolute scorcher. Here we go, a brief overview of this Chang International Circuit here in Buriram, Thailand. 4.5 kilometres long, 12 corners in total. A nice mix of fast and then some tighter stuff as well. 7 rights and then 5 corners to the left. That turn 4, 5 and 6 combination being the longest sequence of left-handers here at this circuit. First World Superbike race was held in 2015, and since then, the 5 races that have been held here have been won by Kawasaki riders, with Jonathan Rea the man to beat. Sector 1 takes us from the start-finish line down to just before turn 2. Then the second sector is through turn 3, just in the run down to turn 5 before the third sector takes us 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the final sector takes us through to the finish line with that tight turn 12. Sure to be 1 or 2 moves there. As you can see, it was Jonathan Rea who won race 1 here in Buriram yesterday. A new circuit record, a new pole position record as well. Today in World Superbikes, it's sure to be an absolutely action-packed race with a grid reshuffle coming up once again. Michael van der Mark will be out for the podium as he starts on the front row alongside Marco Melandri and teammate Alex Lowe's. Speaking of Melandri, he'll be set to go full throttle from the off as he starts in pole position for the first time since 2011, thanks to finishing 4th in race 1. His teammate Shaz Davies is hungry for victory to try and end Kawasaki's domination here in Thailand. One man eager to keep up Kawasaki's domination is Jonathan Rea, who looks to go from 9th to 1st once again. Here we go, the destination of speed, the Chang International Circuit in Buriram, Thailand. Northeast of the capital city of Bangkok. There you can see 49-degree track temperature, 37-degree air temperature. Absolutely roasting conditions here in Thailand as we look across at turn 3. Fully packed grandstands here to witness what will hopefully be another thrilling World Superbike race. It was Jonathan Rea who took flag-to-flag victory, one of the most dominant performances we've seen at this Chang International Circuit as he continues to extend his championship lead. There we can see him just chatting to the Onsu brothers from the Asia Talent Cup. The Asia Talent Cup, absolutely bananas race at the start of the day. Be sure to check out MotoGP.com and WorldSuperbike.com to catch up with all the Asia Talent Cup action. It was an absolute belter as we begin the build-up for this World Superbike race. Of course, it will be 20 laps here of the Chang International Circuit. The race 2 grid reshuffle is in effect, so we only have 2 riders starting in their original position as number 84, Russo, has also been handed a grid penalty. More on that a little later, but there we see the number 1 leading the championship. Pole record lap, race fastest lap and race victory for Jonathan Rea as he will now start in 9th place. He won in Phillip Island from 9th, but Steve, this circuit is a lot more difficult to overtake than in Phillip Island, and it's going to be a big effort for Jonathan Rea to win this race from 9th, even with his incredible robotic pace.
Jonathan Rea currently batting 1,000 with 2 pole positions, 3 wins, but it's going to be a big challenge from 9th on the grid to come through the field and take a 4th win. But after what he did yesterday, nobody's going to underestimate Jonathan Rea in this race. Afterwards, he said that basically Kawasaki gave him a fantastic bike. It allowed him to spend pretty much the entire race in the 1:33s. Only the first lap from a standing start and the last lap when he pulled a big wheelie over the line were outside of the 1:33s, and that's the kind of pace that this man, number 33, has to match today. Marco Melandri is going to start from pole in the reshuffled race, and he needs to take advantage of that. Yesterday, Melandri had a little bit of a brake issue that really held him back at times, but he was still able to finished in the top 4. He was just overtaken by Tom Sykes at the last corner, but it does give him the advantage today of starting from pole position. Melandri said that during the FP1, FP2 and FP3 sessions, he didn't get the chance to really put in a long distance race simulation run, and he didn't really know what to expect from it. But he said that the bike was good the whole way through the race. Just that little bit of a brake problem meant that he felt like a bit of a sitting duck to Tom Sykes, and that's what really opened the door for Sykes. Physically, Melandri obviously still in the early stages of his comeback to World SBK and still just trying to get fully up to race fitness and race speed, but strong opening couple of weekends for him on the Ducati, and you can see the number 60 and a strong race yesterday from Michael van der Mark. Van der Mark really consistent in the races yesterday, and was able to fight with this man Alex Lowe's teammate in the early laps and then bridge a gap and just iron out lots of 34s from Van der Mark. Really consistent pace, and that's what Yamaha are going to have to do in this race. If Lowe's and Van der Mark, starting 3rd and 2nd on the grid, can make a good start, set strong pace in those early laps, they may be able to open enough of a gap over the likes of Leon Camier or Xavi Forés or even Eugene Laverty that will try and come through from the midfield. And really, this is an opportunity for Yamaha to once again take another couple of top 5 finishes. Yesterday, Van der Mark said that where Yamaha are, which is just behind Ducati, just behind Kawasaki, that's really where they should be right now. The 3rd best bike on the grid, 5th and 6th for them in yesterday's race, and the target today has to be maybe just to move up 4th and 5th or try and fight for that podium.
Exactly. Big, unpredictable race here. Of course, there's Marco Melandri who lines up ahead of Van der Mark and Lowe's. We saw in Australia that it was the likes of Chaz Davies, Tom Sykes and Jonathan Rea who were eventually able to come through. But this Buriram circuit, much tighter, very, very different to Phillip Island. There is Chaz Davies. He'll be looking to end Kawasaki's domination here and return to the top step of the podium for the first time since Qatar at the end of last year, where he did manage to do the double.
And you can see this was the move that he made on his teammate Marco Melandri to take 2nd. And really, if you're looking at this objectively, Davis this year, he's 15 points behind Jonathan Rea right now as we stand after 3 races, and it does actually put him into a really strong position for the championship. I think it's easy to look at it and say Jonathan Rea has won 3 races. Yesterday he cleared off into the distance, but even with those kind of results, Chaz Davis is only 15 points behind right now, and Davis just grinding out those 2nd place finishes and really looking at the big picture of the championship. He knows when we get back to Europe the Ducati's going to be strong. Aragon has always been a track where Chaz Davis has been really, really strong. He's won there on the BMW and on the Ducati last year where he did the double, and that's what he needs to do once we get back to Europe. You can see this is the move that Tom Sykes made on Marco Melandri into the last corner to take the podium. Tom Sykes will now start from the 3rd row of the grid, and this is the real test of Sykes. We know how fast he is. He's got all those super poles. He's won a lot of races. He's won a championship. But he needs to show that with this race 2 grid shuffle that he's able to get through the pack, make the overtaking moves and get back onto the podium in the 2nd race of the weekend.
Exactly. In Phillip Island, he also started from 7th in that 2nd race and only managed to work his way up to 6th. Of course, Phillip Island, a track he doesn't really get on well with. Jordi Torres here, he will line up in 4th. He started the first race in 10th, crossed the line in 7th, so he has benefited 6 places from this grid 2 reshuffle. Big gains for Jordi Torres, and a really, really strong race from the BMW rider, actually. You know, the BMW squad, they don't get the most factory support out there, but Torres and teammate Ryderberger did really well yesterday, both picking up points. Torres in the top 10, as we said, with that 7th place, just ahead of Leon Camier on the MV Augusta. A little more about Camier in a bit there. We look into the Red Bull Honda box. Nicky Hayden, he'll line up in the 6th place, having started race 1 in 14th. So Nicky Hayden is actually the biggest gainer in this 2nd race, jumping from 14th on the 5th row of the grid up to 6th on the 2nd row of the grid. It was great to talk to Nicky Hayden yesterday for the interview on worldsuperbike.com and see him smile again. It seemed like there was some hope for that new Honda yesterday for Nicky Hayden, as he had a great race up into 9th and 14th. Just great to see him positive again after being so downbeat in those opening 2 races in Phillip Island.
Yeah, it's been a tough early period for this new Honda. You can see Nicky Hayden just getting himself ready for the pit lane to open. You can see 20 seconds until the pit lane opens. So Nicky will just gear up and head out to the grid. But yesterday, as you said, a lot more positives for Honda, but still an awful lot of work to do. Nicky Hayden saying afterwards that they're still having issues with the electronics, but perhaps the bigger issue for him is that they've actually got chatter issues with this bike. They never really had that last year with the Honda Fireblade, but with the 2017 bike, just as they continue to understand it, the bike is chattering, it's taking the confidence away from the rider, and it is affecting Nicky Hayden. This man, Eugene Laverty, made a step forward in this morning's session and feels a lot more confident with the Aprilia, but as he continues to learn that bike, they're really just having to understand what's changed from when Laverty last rode that bike and what they need to do from the bike now. You can see thumbs up from Jonathan Ray as he rolls down pit lane, and no reason for anything else from Jonathan. He'll start 9th on the grid and he's going to have to get through the field. It's difficult to make overtaking moves here. Jonathan said that even though the pace was great yesterday, he knows race 1 was a different kettle of fish. He said race 1 was so important because he knew starting on that 3rd row, it was really important to have 25 points in the bag so that you could attack in race 2, but he knows how difficult it is to actually make those overtaking moves. He said his plan yesterday in race 1 was just get to turn 1, head down, open a gap and set consistent times, and that's exactly what he did. And now we need to see what he can do in race 2. Going to be a challenge. He needs to make a good start, get into 5th or 6th off the line into the first corner and then pick off riders as he goes. He's got the pace, he's got the consistency, but it's a different matter to have that pace and actually make the moves, especially around this Chang International Circuit. The section where we're looking at now with Ramos, long straights, so you can make moves into the braking zone for turn 3, but it's difficult once you get into the middle of the lap. Turn 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all of them really flow from one to the next, and we don't see an awful lot of overtaking moves in the midfield section of the lap. But you can see Marco Melandri will start from pole, gives him a massive advantage, but he has to convert it.
Yeah, we do know Marco Melandri is so quick off the mark. He started down the field in Phillip Island as well, unable to finish race 1, and he was up with those leading riders. So starting from pole position, there is a lot of potential for him to potentially break away at the start, forge a nice gap, and just try and manage that gap as the race goes on. But as you quite rightly said, he does have to deliver on this. He is still back after a year and a half of racing, just his 4th race back, his 2nd round of the World Superbike Championship. There we can see Stefan Bradl leaving the pits as well. Bradl managed to cross the line inside the top 10. 10th place for Bradl, his first top 10 as a World Superbike rider. There is your man starting in 2nd place. Vandermark seems much more comfortable with that Yamaha here this weekend. Much smoother on that new R1. Of course, able to beat his teammate Alex Lowe's for the first time this year. That Inter-Yamaha rivalry is going to be so incredibly tight and very, very aggressive between those two riders. Going to be a great one to keep an eye on. There is Chaz Davies. You can see the Welsh Dragon there, just on the back of his Alpenstars leather suits as he rolls down pit lane. Meanwhile, Jonathan Ray rolls up into 9th position.
You can see Jonathan Ray just caught by his mechanic on the grid, and you saw the Welsh Dragon for Chaz Davies on his leathers. And Harry, when we bumped into Chaz last night, wasn't too slow to comment about the Welsh team beating the Irish in rugby in the Six Nations Championship. But Davis, very relaxed, very confident, and just, as we said, looking at that big picture, looking at the goal is to be the most points of anyone at the end of the season, not to worry too much about just these early season races. It's just about consolidating and getting as many points as you can in these flyaway races. We've seen in World Supersports just how important it is to take advantage of those points in the early races. Tom Sykes now just leaving the box, and about 90 seconds left for the riders to get to the grid, so a little bit later than usual for the riders, probably just trying to stay in by the fans for as long as possible. We saw Jonathan Ray on the grid yesterday with a fan in front of him sitting on the pit wall, just trying to keep as cool as possible for as long as possible, because this race is incredibly physical. It is difficult for the riders, and it's a massive challenge. We saw Chaz Davies and Leon Camier. They were both on holidays just prior to this down in Bali, training together, and Camier was saying that basically each of the riders was running in duffel coats and as much heavy clothing as they could, just to try and simulate that feel for the race. And really it is absolutely sapping. We saw down in Parc Ferme yesterday just how much energy it takes for the riders to do these races. Once they finished the race, got down into Parc Ferme, the leathers were unzipped, the ice jackets were put on, and everything was done to try and cool their body down as much as possible, get it back to a normal body temperature.
So physically demanding. A fair few ice baths outside the back of all of these pits, as well as we once again join Stefan Bradl. He, much like Nicky Hayden, was a bit more positive yesterday, still not overly enthusiastic with how life on that new Honda is going, but that Honda team, they just need more track time. They got that new Fireblade so late, just before Christmas, and of course with the winter testing ban they couldn't do much work, and then it was basically straight on track, having just put a race fairing on it and done a couple more tweaks like that. They should have a test just before their home round in Assen, so hopefully we can see them make a bit of a step after the Aragon weekend.
Yeah, and the test is incredibly important for that team. Just getting track time, getting data is the key. And I remember I was at the Jerez test. I was basically doing anything I could to get away from the Irish winter. So I went down to Jerez in the south of Spain for a couple of days of the winter tests, and the first time that Nicky Hayden and Stefan Bradl got off the Honda, you could see just how difficult the season it was going to be for them. Riders know pretty much straight away what kind of bike they have underneath them, and when you saw both riders back in the pit box on that opening day, it was clear just how much of a challenge it was. You can see Jonathan Rea here, the Pirelli best lap winner from the opening race of the weekend here in Thailand.
Yep, and of course that was a new race lap record, a 1:33.436 for Jonathan Rea. He set that on lap 5, and there you can see 195 World Superbike starts, 41 race wins, 91 podiums and 10 pole positions. Look at that, 1-1-1, the perfect start to his title defence, as Jonathan Rea does seek to become the first rider to ever take 3 successive World Superbike crowns. What an incredible way to celebrate 30 years of World Superbike action that would be. There we can see his teammate Tom Sykes making his way up to 7th spot. With this Grid 2 reshuffle, everything is just so unpredictable. It was a bit of a processional race, not quite as exciting as in Phillip Island Race 1 here, but with 3 of the fastest riders now starting on the 3rd row, we're sure to have at least some great opening laps, probably a great entire race, just because of how tight the circuit is.
Yeah, very different race on Sunday compared to what we saw yesterday, and it was a strange race yesterday because we saw Jonathan Rea make that gap and get away at the front. I think a lot of that also was helped by the fact that Chaz Davis got bottled up at the start. If you remember, he had to get past Tom Sykes, he had to get past Marco Melandri, and it definitely did cost Chaz Davis really any chance of putting pressure on Jonathan Rea. You can see here Marco Melandri trying to keep cool, covering up his blonde hair as well, Harry, just as he sits on a stool on the grid waiting for the start of the race. We've got just over 10 minutes until the start of the race. Melandri just trying to keep cool on pole position and try and convert that into another podium and potentially another win for him. His first since coming back to World SBK, but we did see him on the podium in race 2 last time out. He came from 10th on the grid in Australia to get back on the rostrum, so we know that Melandri is strong, we know he's got good pace once more, and he's back to the kind of form that we all expect from Marco Melandri.
And this man here will be one to watch on that first lap. Both those Yamaha riders, Michael Vandermark and teammate Lowe's, are incredibly aggressive, very, very defensive and hard to get past on those Yamahas. So for the likes of Jonathan Rea, I think that both of those Yamaha riders will be his biggest obstacle to pass on this first lap. Of course, the race start will be so important for Rea, Davies and Sykes. Both the Ducati and the Kawasaki do make very good starts, with the Ducati maybe just having the edge, at least in Phillip Island. And here is the Thai national anthem. Great little performance of a great national anthem there. We can see Leon Camia lining up in 5th, gaining 6 grid spots and holding up a sign RIP Big John. Of course, John Surtees unfortunately losing his life this weekend at the tender age of 83, I believe it was. The only man to win the premier class of Grand Prix racing at that time, the 500cc class, now MotoGP, and a Formula 1 world title. We all do send our best wishes to John's family. An absolute legend of the sport, unfortunately gone, but it is time to honour his memory with what will hopefully be another incredible race, as we see Chaz Davies just stretching it out, trying to limber up, trying to get his body nice and loose, nice and relaxed before doing battle for 20 laps, or roughly 91 kilometres.
John Surtees, a 7 times world champion. Here's number 7, Chaz Davies, starting in the middle of the 3rd row for Davis. He has been looking quite relaxed, as we said. He's been looking really strong, and he looks ready just to consolidate what he's done so far in these opening 3 races. Key for Davis is to make a good start. He was always strong off the line last year on the Ducati and needs to do the same again. You can see Nicky Hayden just waiting by the pit wall for the start of the race. Nicky's going to start 6th on the grid, so it does put him into a good position. He was in that fight with Leon Camier and Jody Torres yesterday, so hopefully we'll be able to see something strong from the Honda, and they'll be able to stay in that fight for a little while. The main issue for them is they're not seeing any real benefit from the new tyre. Stefan Bradl was saying that really his lap time at the end of the race was nearly as fast as his fastest lap, and they're not really getting any profit from that new tyre. Nicky Hayden saying that still the electronics very inconsistent for him, and an issue for Nicky Hayden. You can see Eugene Laverty, an issue for the Irishman yesterday, retired on the last lap while running in 7th position, but he'll start 10th now, and he was much faster and much happier in this morning's warm-up when he was running inside the top 5. And Laverty still just trying to get to terms with the Aprilia and just really understand and figure out how to get the most from that package right now.
Exactly, that bike is quite different to the one which he was pretty successful on back when he was an Aprilia rider for 2 years in MotoGP. Javi Forres here, the Spanish rider from Valencia, 31 years old. Just that single podium last season in Lausitz Ring. He'll line up 11th on the grid. Very, very fast in Phillip Island, not quite able to carry through the same form here to Thailand. Struggled a bit in the race, was fighting with the likes of Torres, Laverty, and then sort of at the back of that Camier Hayden battle. Lorenzo Savadori there, he'll start the race in 12th. He had some issues during the race as well and crossed the line in 13th. Picked up 2 more points, the Italian rider. He has shown huge potential, looks so good during testing, and just trying to convert all of that testing speed through to some results on that Aprilia. As we say, the SMR team switching from BMW last year, now on the Aprilia machinery, with a lot of help from Aprilia in Italy. A fair number of Italian technicians inside of that largely British team. So a nice mixed nationalities there. There we see the 3rd place man, Alex Lowe's, just chatting to broadcast media ahead of the race. Lowe's took huge advantage of his pole position start in Phillip Island to lead the first lap, and was again strong here, 6th place in the first race in Thailand. Marcus Reiterberger starts in 13th. Much more consistent start to the season for Marcus Reiterberger in 2017 after a crash-filled start in 2016. Still a very young rider, still trying to learn his way in this superbike class. A double IDM champion, but obviously the step from the IDM, the German domestic superbike series, it's a big one up here to the world stage. Now a veteran of the world stage, Tom Sykes there, as you can see, 213 race starts, 31 wins, and a huge number of podiums. Mr. Superpole, 3rd in Australia, 6th in Australia, and then 3rd here. Can he go better than he did in race 2 in Australia? We've seen for a fair bit of his career, Tom Sykes very, very fast. You know, we know how fast he is from Superpole, but sometimes when he has to pass riders, he just can't quite get through it as quickly as some of the other guys like Chaz and like Jonathan. There we can see Randy Krummenacher, the Swiss rider. He'll start 14th this race. It's his 3rd World Superbike start, stepping up to the Premier class with that Kawasaki Pacetti racing team there. You can see Manuel Pacetti just sitting alongside the currently towelled Swiss rider.
Of course, Manuel Pacetti can be quite pleased with himself after what we saw in World Supersport as well, with a strong performance from both of his riders. But we've got just over 5 minutes until the start of the race, and you can see everyone just getting themselves ready, getting themselves into the right frame of mind to get ready to race. You can see Alex DeAngelis now just, again, one of the many riders to sit against the pit wall, just trying to get as cool as possible. It's sitting on your bike on the grid can take a lot of energy from you. The bike's, of course, up to temperature, and really, it's not once you're riding that the problems are for these riders. It's once you stop. That's when they really feel the effects of the heat, and they do their best to cool off before and after the race. But you can see Nicky Hayden just getting himself into the frame of mind to go racing. It's going to be a big ask for the American to have a strong performance here and try and convert that 6th position on the grid into another solid top 10 finish.
Yep, and there we can see some officials from Yamaha. A big presence for Yamaha and Kawasaki here, not just in the grandstands with a lot of fans, but also with a lot of their top executives here to come along and see the success of their World Superbike project. Stefan Bradl there, 27 years of age, 3 starts, has scored points in all 3 races, but still working very hard to try and improve that new Honda Fireblade SP2. As we said, Stefan Bradl will line up a bit further down the grid in 16th place. Of course, the top 9 positions are decided by race 1 results, with then everybody below that based on their Super Pole time. So if you are in the top 9 in race 1, you could provisionally start anywhere from 1st to 9th, depending on your position. Of course, 1, 2, 3, starting 9, 8, 7 in race 2, and then 4th starting from pole, and so on and so forth. As the safety car leaves, 5 minutes to go before race 1 as we begin to clear the grid. Marco Melandri there just doing up his helmet there. You can see the drink tube hanging out the back of his helmet. You don't get much water or much liquid inside those camel packs. Just a bit under a litre, but it is hugely important to try and get anything you can to just, even just wet your mouth as a rider. There we see Andrei Jezek, the Czech rider, his 3rd start as well, a rookie just like Stefan Bradl. He unfortunately had a crash during warm-up, but is looking fit and healthy there, sitting on his Grillini. Kawasaki lines up in 17th place on the grid, ahead of fellow Kawasaki rider Roman Ramos in 18th spot. Of course, Ramos, one of the more consistent guys in this championship, always manages to pick up a couple of points, very rarely crashes, and just, slowly works his way up the championship standing as the season goes on by being nice and consistent. Big consistency this year so far for that man there, Lowe's.
Talked to Alex after race 1 and beaten by Michael van der Mark, but really for Lowe's, he said the key thing was just, again, get as many points as he could, get the information, get the data. He wasn't quite as happy with the bike as he had been in the past, especially in Phillip Island or in winter testing, but he'll start 3rd on the grid for race 2, so it does put him into a good position to fight with Michael van der Mark, as you can see, in 2nd on the grid. But Marco Melandri has to be the man to beat in these early stages of the race. The Ducati rider starts from pole and really puts himself into the box seats to be able to try and fight for this win.
Here we go, overlooking the grid for race 2. Here it is, Marco Melandri on pole, 4th in race 1. Van der Mark there in 2nd place. Lowe's in 3rd. Torres ahead of Cami, ahead of Hayden. And there's just confirmation. Russo must drop 3 grid positions due to irresponsible riding during Super Pole 1. So Russo will now line up in 20th spot. We'll get to him in just a second. Tom Sykes there starts 7th place on virtue of being 3rd in race 1, ahead of Davies and the reigning champion Jonathan Ray. Eugene Labadie, a lot of work to do from 10th place, ahead of Forres, and then Labadie's teammate Savadori there. Reiterberger in 13th, ahead of Krumnacher, De Angelis in 15th, Bradl 16th, Jezek there 17th, and Ramos in 18th on row 6. Row 7 is made up of Ayrton Badavini, and as we said, Russo down there at the back of the grid due to that penalty. Just 3 places, so as we said, there are only 2 riders starting their original grid positions, which are Alex De Angelis in 15th and Stefan Bradl in 16th.
And we've gotten the tyre sheet up from Pirelli as well, Harry, and basically the same as what we saw yesterday. Everyone using the same rear tyre, the majority of the field using the same front tyres they were using yesterday. What is interesting, though, is that Chaz Davis has moved from the development front tyre to the standard front tyre, and that'll mean that Chaz Davis will join the likes of Marco Melandri and Jordi Torres using the SC1 front tyre. The majority of the field using the SC2 tyre, so a slightly harder construction in the front tyre for most of them. You can see a massive crowd here once again, 80,000 people packing into the Chang International Circuit over the course of this weekend, and they've been treated to some fantastic racing in World Supersport, and hopefully race 2 in World Superbike will be the same.
There's an absolutely wonderful atmosphere here, celebrating 30 years of World Superbike. As you can see, Sugo in Japan has hosted the most races in Asia for the World Superbike Championship. They've hosted 32, followed closely, I guess, by the LaSalle Circuit at 16, and then just 8 races at the Central Circuit. Of course, this will be our 6th race here at the Chang International Circuit. If you are following along at home, be sure to check out the World Superbike app in both the iOS and Google Store. It does have live timing, commentary, live track positions, facts and figures about the riders, and a plethora of photos. A great companion to watching along on your TV at home. There you can see the championship standings. Jonathan Ray, 3 race wins, 75 points. Chaz Davies, 3 second places, 60. Tom Sykes there with 42, and then Lowe's in 4th with a pretty solid 36 points out of the opening 3 races as we come up to the grid. Not very long to roll down there for Jonathan Ray as he does line up in 9th. There is your pole man, number 33, Marco Melandri. He's only ever started from pole once before in World Superbikes back in 2011 in Jerez. Ernesto Marinelli there looking on, hoping that he can celebrate a Ducati victory here, hopefully get up onto the podium to claim the team's trophy. But that man there, number one, Jonathan Rea, will have a thing or two to say about that one. Lowe's there on the front row. Team boss Paul Denning looking on. Can Lowe's return to the podium? Could Michael van der Mark be on the podium here? We're about to find out. Get set for race 2 here in Thailand. We are away at the Chang International Circuit. A great launch from Marco Melandri. Off like a scalded cat offline. Leads with ease into turn 1 ahead of Lowe's. Michael van der Mark dropped down. Jonathan Rea up to 4th already.
Yeah, stunning start from Rea to get himself right into that front group from the outside. You can see Tom Sykes now trying to push through as well on Nicky Hayden. But Jonathan Rea already into 3rd position. Terrible start from Michael van der Mark as well. Van der Mark all the way down the field after being pushed out in the first corner. But you can see up at the front, it's Melandri, Lowe's, Davis and Rea. Stunning starts from both of them from the 3rd row.
Absolutely incredible. And fair play to Tom Sykes as well. Already up into 6th place. Just now up into 5th place straight away past Leon Camier. All 3 of those riders getting absolutely incredible starts. Marco Melandri is not going to have much time.
And a big moment there for Jonathan Rea. Sorry to interrupt, Clary, but big moment for Jonathan Rea on the way into turn 5 as he has a big bobble just on the entry to the corner, but Rea able to collect it and get himself ready just to attack Chaz Davis. But Eugene Laverty through turn 7 with a great move down the inside, but looks like he's run a little bit wide, and Jordi Torres might be able to attack once again. But you can see at the front it's still Melandri, Lowe's, Davis and Jonathan Rea, but Lowe's sure to be under attack from Chaz Davis right away. But you can see Lowe's very close to Marco Melandri, right there with him through the flip-flops. The Yamaha really strong on the brake into that last corner as well, so maybe Lowe's will try and make a move. But 4 abreast on the way into the last corner. You can see Jonathan Rea, Chaz Davis both getting down the inside of Alex Lowe's, but great stuff from Jonathan Rea to be able to take second. But Lowe's now deposed by Chaz Davis as well.
Yep, great move there from Jonathan to provisionally move into 2nd place. Chaz Davies has a look up the inside, can't quite do it. It is the reigning world champion Marco Melandri leads as we begin lap 2 ahead of Jonathan Rea, already right up there. Chaz Davies yet again sticking to the back of Jonathan Rea. Lowe's is still in the mix, as is Tom Sykes. Don't rule him out there in 5th, just behind the Yamaha rider. Smoke coming off the boot of Lowe's there as he tries to get that Yamaha stopped.
And you can see Chaz Davis take 2nd place. Davis, like what we saw in Australia, he knows he needs to strike when the iron's hot. He knows whenever he's got Jonathan Rea in front of him like that, he needs to just make sure he's able to make the moves. Good stuff from Davis to get down underneath him into turn 3. And see Melandri out in front, around about a half a second of a gap, but the Italian sure to be under attack from Davis and Rea pretty much straight away. We saw Jonathan Rea have a little bit of a head shake on the way in to turn 5 once again there.
Exactly there. You can see Michael van der Mark dropping down to 12th, having started in 2nd place. Disastrous start for him. Fortunately, a great start for Davies, Rea and Sykes. There you can see made up 6th place to 6th place, and then 2 places for Tom Sykes. And already Davies and Rea are fighting with Michael Melandri, just like we saw at the start of race 1. Slightly different order back then, but Marco Melandri is doing his best to stay ahead. But Chaz Davies and Jonathan Rea have other ideas. Yet again, another great ride from Lowe's. Pretty similar to what we saw in Thailand, just sticking to the back of these guys who are so used to fighting in front. Will Jonathan try another move up the inside of Chaz? No, can't quite do it. Meanwhile, Chaz is right on the back wheel of his teammate as the rest of the field comes through turn 12.
Yeah, you can see just how much faster Chaz Davis was under the braking zone into that final corner in comparison to his teammate Marco Melandri. Last time around, Davis a quarter of a second faster than his teammate as well. So the number 7 Ducati looks like he's just got that little bit more pace than the 33. But we're riding on board with Davis now. So difficult to make an overtaking move on Marco Melandri down this long straight. Melandri so light, so small, and able to carry so much speed down that straight. You can see Davis carrying too much speed on the way into the corner.
Whoa, Davies goes down! The number 7 has lost the front too late. You saw the bike go sideways as he tried to get it stopped. His chance of winning this race is now far from over. Can he get that bike back restarted and maybe catch a couple of points? It does look like the entire field has gone past Davies, who has gone down at turn 3. Absolute disaster for Chaz Davies as Jonathan Rea continues to chase his teammate Marco Melandri.
And as we were saying at the start of the race, Harry, the key thing for these riders is to consolidate points. Davis making a mistake there on the way into turn 3, and a very costly error, given that he was 15 points behind Jonathan Rea in the early stages. Really had been doing a great job in these early races just to keep his points building, but Big mistake there for Chaz Davis on the way into turn 3. You can see it's still Marco Melandri that's leading the way. Davis has rejoined the race, but he's down in 20th position.
What a dramatic race here in Thailand. This is exactly the perfect situation, more or less, for Jonathan Rea as he does continue to hunt down Marco Melandri, the number 1, slowly gaining on the number 33. Trying to take it nice and steady. Doesn't want to make the same mistake that Chaz Davies just made. Meanwhile, this does mean that Alex Lowe's has moved up provisionally into 3rd spot. Tom Sykes 4th. Leon Camia 5th, now ahead of Eugene Laverty on the Aprilia. A great ride by Camia once again, who lost most of Friday due to a technical problem. Here we go with the gear shift, foot of Lowe's up the gearbox as he comes down that long straight before getting ready to bang down the gearbox. Hard on the brakes here into turn 3, right where Chaz Davies went down just 1 lap ago.
And you can see Jonathan Rea now just using all the track there from Rea just to try and get close to Melandri. Yesterday, Melandri had a lot of pace in these early stages of the race, but just didn't have the consistency of Jonathan Rea. You can see under braking into turn 3, Chaz Davies just a little bit unsettled, runs in. He's leaned over and just basically just runs out of grip for the Ducati rider, and it's a bad mistake from Davis to make there. You could see didn't try and set the bike up. He thought he was able to save it. We see Davis sliding so much on the way into the corner every lap, but for Davis, massive disappointment, and you can see the reaction from Ernie down in the Ducati box. Davis 30 seconds behind the race leader now, and really with all the work in the world to do to just try and get back up into the points.
Exactly, it would be a big ask even to pick up a couple of points, as his nearest rival Badavini down in 19th is over 20 seconds ahead. Meanwhile, Jonathan Rea is right on the back of Marco Melandri as we go on board as the world champion. Dives up the inside into turn 12, hard on the brakes. Nice tight line there from Jonathan Rea. Marco Melandri try and get on the power, try and use that slipstream to blast past the Kawasaki. Both the Kawasaki and the Ducati pretty evenly matched on top end speed here all weekend, but it is Jonathan Rea who leads through turn 1 onto that back straight.
Yeah, great move from Jonathan Rea. He's been comfortable into that last corner. We saw him try and make a move on the first lap as well. He went from 4th to 2nd into that last corner, but Marco Melandri so fast down that back straight, trying to use the toe from the Kawasaki, but just not able to break as deep as Jonathan Rea into turn 3. You can see Rea now holding a comfortable enough lead for the Kawasaki rider. Yesterday it was a case of head down, try and open that gap. Let's see if Rea's able to do the same now. But behind Melandri, you've got Alex Lowe's on the number 22 Yamaha, and last time around Lowe's was actually a little bit faster than Melandri, just a tenth or two of a second a lap faster than Melandri. So we could see Lowe's and Tom Sykes really brought up to this battle for second as well.
As we watch Tom Sykes there in 4th, slowly trying to close down that almost half a second gap to Lowe's. We can be sure that that battle is going to heat up. We saw that Tom Sykes isn't afraid of a last corner move here, as we saw in race 1 when he demoted the man in 2nd, Marco Melandri, to 4th. Another great ride from Lowe's. He said he wasn't completely happy with the bike in race 2, but Yamaha have used the 24 hours between each race to great effect to get that bike working what looks to be pretty well for the British rider.
And the key thing for Lowe's is going to be how that bike feels over the course of the race distance as the tyre starts to drop. The Yamaha, very consistent yesterday from Michael van der Mark, so we could expect to see Lowe's really stay in this fight for the majority of the race.
Yeah, and once again, it does look like Jonathan Rea has set a 133. We saw him pound out those 133s throughout the entirety of race 1. Oh, a big crash down there. That looks like that could be one of the Aprilias. We will try and find out who that is. Yes, it does look like that's Lorenzo Savadori down there. His bike still in the middle of the track. Savadori is sitting up, fortunately. A big crash there for the Italian.
And at the front, you can see Jonathan Rea has eked out a gap of about 3/4 of a second to Marco Melandri. So this is exactly what we saw from Jonathan Rea yesterday as well. But behind that, it's Alex Lowe's really bringing Tom Sykes with him as well to Marco Melandri. Last time around, it was again another 1/3 of a second that Lowe's pulled out of the Ducati rider. So just like what we saw yesterday as well, Melandri had good pace in those early laps, but just as the tyre dropped or as the race progressed, just wasn't able to maintain that pace. And you can see the damage for Lorenzo Savadori's bike. It was a difficult race yesterday for the Milwaukee Aprilia rider, and it's a quick race today for him.
Yeah, unfortunately so, but great to see that he was up and walking away. Meanwhile, it does look like Sykes has continued to close down on those there. You can see them just at the back of your red flag. The red flag has come out, it seems, as it does look like there could potentially be something down on track at the last corner where Savadori fell. Could this be the chance that Chaz Davies needs? He'll certainly be able to get back up in the points. He did it from the 3rd row. Can he do it from the 7th row?
Well, the thing with this is we go to a red flag, we'll have a quick restart procedure, be announced, as you can see on the ticker at the bottom of the screen, be announced in a few minutes when we'll actually restart. But for Chaz Davis, he needs to do what Jonathan Ray did in Qatar last year, which was start at the back of the grid in a shortened race that had been red flagged and get through to the front of the field. Second chance for Davis. He'll be able to get back, get the bike repaired hopefully, and get himself ready to go out and do battle once again. You can see Lorenzo Savadori just stalking back to the pits, and really disappointment there for the Italian, but it's been a tough, and you can see looks like a technical problem for Savadori on the way into the corner, and very lucky that no one else was also taken out in this accident. You can see just getting thrown over the high side for Savadori, and understandable to take out the red flags.
Yeah, it looked like there was probably something going on to that rear tyre, which then, as you quite rightly said, did cause that lack of adhesion, which then flicked Savadori off. It does look like there is quite a large puddle of something in the middle of the track, just peering out of our commentary booth from where he was there. You can see all the bikes back in. All the riders now need to try and cool down as well. That's the other thing. You know, all these riders have been so tense on the grid in the build-up to that first race start, so they have to try and cool down, stay focused, maybe make one or two adjustments to the bike if they need to. Chaz Davies there just debriefing with his team.
Just listening to see what Davis has to say.
Okay, the throttle is a little bit stiff. The throttle's stiff. Okay.
Davis just saying after the crash, the throttle got damaged. It's feeling a little bit stiff from this. The team just going to try and repair the bike. And now the key thing for Davis is just to try and keep calm. You could see there just the tension for the Welshman. It's difficult to try and get yourself back into the right zone for a red flag like this, but for Davis now the key thing is just get ready for the restart and keep calm, get the bike repaired.
There you can see what has caused the red flag. The track marshals, they're just inspecting that puddle of some sort of liquid in the middle of the circuit, getting the brooms and what looks to be the cement dust out as well. A member of the FIM safety crew there just getting out of the field. There is Marco Melandri, that absolutely fabulous hairstyle. I must say, I'm quite a fan of the bleach dye look. Marco Melandri, he'll again be starting from that front row, so he'll get another chance to do it again. Race red flag due to track conditions, quick restart procedure, new schedule to be announced. Just official confirmation there on the ticker. There we can see getting out the paper towels to soak up whatever liquid is there. Everybody just checking that the track is all okay. Of course, the same safety team that does travel to every circuit to make sure that everything does run smoothly. There's Lorenzo Savadori just debriefing with his SMR team to tell them what happened. Most importantly, he is okay, able to walk away from that very nasty crash, flicked over the bars. Unfortunately, he won't be able to make the race restart, as you do have to return with your bike to pit lane within 5 minutes, and there is only one bike in World Superbike, so no chance of restarting. So there is the last full lap. It was Ray who led from Melandri, Lowe's, Sykes, Camia, Laverty, Torres, Hayden, Vandermark, Flores, De Angelis, and then Krumanacker in 12th would be the basis of the restarted grid.
And it will be a 16-lap race once we're ready to go. So shortened race, but really with the way we've seen the tyres working this weekend, it shouldn't make too big of a difference just in terms of how people approach the race. They've all been flat out the whole way through yesterday's race, so it should be much the same in today's race. You can see Chaz Davis had said that the throttle was sticking a little bit for him, and you can see Ducati just working on that to get it ready for the restarted race. Bit of work to be done for Ducati, but this is where you see the real difference between race mechanics and just usual mechanics. Usually your mechanics paid by the hour, Harry. They're not in too much of a hurry to get everything fixed. A race mechanic, you see the real difference there. Able to work incredibly calmly but incredibly fast and work so well together, and that's what Ducati needs to do right now.
I think there is confirmation that grid positions will be based on the standings at the end of lap 4, that quick grid that we read out to you just a few moments ago. Looks like some pretty big changes going on there for Michael Vandermark. The seat unit of that bike and the fuel tank cover ripped off there as the Yamaha team get to work. Looks like they're covering the engine casing there in something to try and maybe there's a leak or some sort of issue for Vandermark, the number 60 Yamaha. As you said, he had a terrible start. Started in second and then dropped way down the field. There you can see the marshals getting out the cement dust, trying to clean up whatever substance was down on track. Look, you can see the line that Savadori took as his bike was billowing smoke, something leaking all over the rear tyre and then eventually flicking him off Great work by that Aruba.it Ducati racing team to get Chaz Davies' bike looking pretty ship-shape. Davies just there in the background, still continuing to debrief with his team and just talk through what they need to change. Sure that Chaz Davies, when he fell at turn 3, he was hoping for a red flag, so this is a bit of a blessing as he will be able to make that restart. We saw a great start from Davies in the first part of this race. Coming back from 19th is going to be a big ask for Davies, but if there was one man, aside from Jonathan Ray, who I thought could come from the back of the field, it's certainly Chaz Davies. Definitely a Sunday man, always loves a battle, always so fast over race distance.
Chaz Davies, of course, the mother of all second chances, to be able to get through. And really, he has that crash, but he's now able just to restart the race and try and get through the pack, and he has to get through the pack now. But there is a real chance for Chaz Davies to come away with this, salvage a top 5, and you can see Jonathan Ray very relaxed down in the pit box, not a care in the world. And usually, it's the race leader that would be the one that's disappointed to have a red flag. Jonathan Ray just showing just how strong he was off the line. You can see himself and Chaz Davies, 9th and 8th on the grid, but able just to make straight through the field and slice through to 3rd and 4th at the end of the at the exit of the first corner.
Exactly. We saw yesterday that Jonathan Ray, his plan when he started on pole position, there we just see once again the crash of Chaz Davies. For Ducati, that has to be best case circumstance, best case scenario for a crash. Nice and slow, hopefully not too much serious damage to that bike. Chaz walking away perfectly fine. New pair of gloves on and he'll be right as rain.
Yeah, we have to remember as well, Chaz Davies had that crash in Superpole yesterday as well. So that's 2 slow speed crashes for Davies. It does start to sap the confidence a little bit for you. For Lorenzo Savadori, nothing Savadori can do for this. Just very unfortunate for him, and you can see how well the rest of the field does to avoid the Italian and his bike. But red flag inevitable for that, and we're just still, as you can see, just working on the track conditions, trying to get them ready. You can see the marshals and the FIM safety delegates will all be down there just trying to make sure that the conditions are as good as they can possibly be for us to go racing again. You can see Ernesto Marinelli there also helping out, the team boss for Ducati. But of course Marinelli was a crew chief as well. He understands exactly what these guys have to do to get this bike ready, and you can see just how calm Ducati are in getting the bike prepared. Nothing to be gained by being frenzied, nothing to be gained by getting yourself stressed out, and you can see Alex Lowe's doing his best not to be stressed out either, with the Englishman started on the front row in the initial race and converted that again into really strong pace in those early laps of the race. He'll start again from 3rd on the grid.
Exactly, he'll be right up there once again. Of course, he now will have those guys like Sykes and Ray and Melandri right with him, but with the pace he showed, I think he can still stick with them at the start of this race. A bit of work going on there for Tom Sykes as well. As you can see, everybody blasting air into that bike, trying to get it cooled down. It's not just the riders that suffer in this heat, the bikes as well. Huge demand for them. The bike of Stefan Bradl there with the tyre warmers back on as his team just cool it down, suck out the data there. You can see that big coily cable coming up to suck down all of the data, and then just wiping that screen, of course, picking out flies and all sorts of just different little insects as they race around, getting that nice and clean as well.
80,000 people here over the course of the weekend, Harry, and always one of the most popular races of the year here at the Chang International Circuit. A big crowd, and given great action in the Supersport race, they were able to cheer on a couple of home riders, and really good to see local Thai riders able to get to the front in the Supersport race. You can see Xavi Fares doing all he can to keep as cool as possible, but even with that fan in his face, the Spanish rider still going to be sweating. You can see every time the riders come in from even just in qualifying after a 3 or a 4 lap run, you could see just how much energy it takes from them. You can see Jordi Torres here in the Altea BMW box. Torres quite competitive all weekend, but it has been a tough weekend for the BMW rider, just never really quite having the right feel from the bike and always at the limit of it, but he's consistently been able to grind out top 10 times.
Exactly, and always the leading BMW, which is something very important for him. There is the MV Augusta of Leon Camier. Another great start to the race for Camier, up fighting for 5th, fighting for 6th. Huge technical problems for Leon Camier. I know that team are trying a couple of different things to try and solve those technical problems, which have unfortunately persisted on that Italian-built machine. Camier with his top off there, trying to cool down. There we can see will line up in 5th place once again.
And Leon was saying that this race is so draining physically that really, when you talk to riders after a race here or at Sepang, they all say the same thing, that you get tunnel vision. It just takes so much out of you once you're off the bike. Once you're on the bike, you're able to get by in adrenaline and things like that. But on the slow down lap, really, that's when it starts to hit you like a wall for these riders. All of them really fit. And once they're in the battle for 35 minutes, they're able to maintain their focus. But the second the race finishes and they're able just to take that bit of time, that's whenever it starts to hit them. And you can see the race will restart at 4:35 local time, so around about 15 minutes time. It'll be a 16-lap race, and you can see the starting order will be Jonathan Rea, Marco Melandri and Alex Lowes in the front row. Tom Sykes, Leon Camier and Eugene Laverty on the second row.
Yep, then Torres, Hayden and Vandermark. Vandermark made up a couple of positions after dropping back. Forres, De Angelis and Krumenacker rounding out that fourth row as well. And then just behind them, Bridle ahead of Russo. Reiterberger will be in 15th. Ramos ahead of Jezek. And then Badavini and Davies right at the back, starting 19th. As we said, this is a blessing for Chaz Davies. He'll certainly be able to get up into the points. Can he maximise this second chance? Could he potentially fight for the podium? Maybe even the win. What an incredible story that would be for Chaz Davies. Markus Reiterberger there taking him some water. A bit hotter here than it is in Reiterberger's native Germany, that's for sure.
Well, the heat can pick up in Germany as well, but I think to think Chaz Davies might be able to come through and fight for the win, it's optimistic. But with Jonathan Rea starting from pole and with the form that we've seen from him yesterday and also in those opening 4 laps before the red flag, impossible to bet against the Northern Irishman. But we will see in the shortened race, again, just the likes of Melandri. Lowes will be trying to gun it right from the start. Tom Sykes has been given a real opportunity now because he doesn't have to come through all the way through that top 6 as well. He's able to start from 4th and gives himself a chance. You can see from technical control, Miguel just looking in to see what's actually being done on the Yamaha of Michael van der Mark. We saw a lot of work being done on that bike. We saw van der Mark struggle in race 1, so quite a bit of work to be done for the Paddy Yamaha team.
Hopefully Van der Mark can make a better start this time and can get up there. There we can see all the marshals now walking away. Still a fair bit of cement dust down. Riders will have to be very careful through that tight turn 12 on the first couple laps. Hopefully it'll clear up for that last lap because it is such a great spot to overtake. And so there we look back into the Aruba.it Ducati box. Number 7 there, Ernesto Marinelli, still trying to hose down that Ducati, just pump it full of cold air. The leaf blower there for Marco Melandri as well, just pointing it at the end, as we said, try and cool it down. You don't want any part of these bikes getting too hot. A lot of action still there going on in the Paddy Yamaha box.
Yeah, and you can see the blue shirt of Scott Smart also going down to the Yamaha pit box just to see what's happening with Michael van der Mark. So not sure exactly what the issue is for van der Mark just yet, but obviously with technical control coming down, Scott Smart coming down, they have to just make sure that engines and other sealed units aren't being affected. But you can see just with the race set to start in just under 15 minutes. Pit lane will open in 7 minutes. These guys now all have to just try and ready themselves. You can see Alex DeAngelis just trying to cool down and keep himself calm before the 16-lap race.
Looking very relaxed there as well. He's not looking too tired after that first part of the race. Daniels, of course, pretty used to racing in these hot conditions, of course, having raced in places like Japan and Malaysia in the MotoGP and Moto2 World Championships. And
we've just had an update as well, Harry, just from Yamaha as well, and it's an oil leak for Michael van der Mark on the R1. So you can see the Crescent Yamaha team all just trying to get that bike fixed, get that bike ready. But as you can see, technical control as well, also just making sure that it's all being done within the regulations. Obviously, we're in a red flag, so you're not able to just bolt out different parts. You still have to maintain some parts on the bike.
Exactly, and of course technical control, making sure that it would be safe for that bike to restart. An oil leak is a very scary thing in motorcycle racing because of course no traction on oil can cause some pretty nasty crashes even with just a tiny bit of oil down. But no doubt that very professional Paddy Yamaha team and the great FIM and World Superbike team that we have here going to ensure that. There's the number 86 of Ayrton Badavini. Very, very tough start to the season for the experienced Italian. That Galini Kawasaki, maybe not the most competitive bike out there. Both him and Jezek have been struggling a bit, but if the conditions are a bit iffy, if it rains a bit, then that man there, Anton Badavini, could certainly be up there. Has gotten a couple of podiums before in World Superbike, did cross the line in 18th, so we'll start one place ahead of Chaz Davies when we go racing in just about 5.5 minutes time, so enough time to maybe grab a drink out of the fridge and then come back down to join us for this 16-lap race here at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand. The grandstand still packed, all the fans waiting around to see the dramatic conclusion to this race.
And once more we're back into the box for the number 7 Ducati at Chaz Davies. You can see Ducati almost ready with their Panigale for the Welsh rider who had that crash at turn 3. Davis, as you said, will start from the back of the field, but it is a second chance for him. It is that opportunity to still get through and score some points. And really, whenever he hit the deck, I'd say he didn't really think there was the opportunity to get through and fight for a top 10 place, but that's a real possibility now for Davis. Quite reminiscent of what happened last year in Phillip Island, where he was able to recover and still score some points after a crash at the end of race 2. But you can see Davis there, just the replay of his crash, and again, one of those, just a slow speed crash, the bike sliding on the way into the corner, and Davis, it's one of those things you'd imagine inside Davis's head, he knows this is going to happen, he knows it's going to happen, but he just can't quite stop. You can see Jonathan Ray now not as relaxed as he was a couple of minutes ago, just trying to get his game face on, try and get his focus, talking to Parariba and just get himself ready. Pit lane will open in 4 minutes, be open for 1 minute, quick restart procedure, so we should be back racing at 25 to the hour.
Yep, there is Jonathan Ray seizing the lead of that first race ahead of Marco Melandri. I think that Jonathan Ray is going to be leading this race from the off once again. We saw how strong he was yesterday, but just speaking to Jonathan's relationship with Parariba and that whole Kawasaki racing team, they are all so tight-knit, a real family inside that factory team. We went out for dinner on, I think it was Thursday night, and all of the team were at the same restaurant as us, all sitting around, all having a joke, showing each other funny photos on their phones and all this sort of thing as we watch Jonathan Ray once again up the inside of Marco Landry into that turn 12, which has now unfortunately gotten a fair bit of liquid down there.
Yeah, and you can see how early Jonathan's able to set that move up as well. It's not a case of diving by under braking. He's able just to put himself into the right position from exiting that last corner and the previous corner, and able to really set that move up very early, make a very comfortable move to take the lead.
Andrei Jezek there, the Czech rider with one of the D-Air Dionysi airbag suits as well. Lots more riders now running those airbag suits developed by Alpenstars and Dionysi. A great safety feature to help minimise the impact of those big crashes. Once again, just confirmation that the race will restart at 4:35 local time for 16 laps. That is in just under 3 minutes, so don't go anywhere. Everybody there in the grandstands, no doubt checking Twitter and all the different social medias to try and get the latest updates. Be sure to tweet your thoughts on this absolutely thrilling round of the World Superbike Championship using the hashtag #ThaiWorldSBK, just down the bottom right of your screens there as we go back down to the Paddock Yamaha box. Everybody's down there.
And the big question is, will Michael van der Mark be mentioned along with hashtag #ThaiWorldSBK?
Like Scott Smart there was just doing the slashing his throat motion, maybe signalling that Michael van der Mark won't be allowed to restart. We will wait for official confirmation on that one. All that Paddock Yamaha team still doing everything they can to get that bike sorted. Huge amount of Yamaha fans here. There's also a big Kawasaki part of the grandstand right outside our commentary box. Absolutely exploded when Jonathan Ray took the lead in that first part of the race. Everybody a bit quiet in pit lane there, just waiting for the last couple of minutes. Just under 2 minutes now before we will head out for the quick restart procedure. Of course, no interviews or anything like that. Just one mechanic on the grid, then one formation lap, and then we go racing yet again here in Thailand.
It is the calm before the storm, and we've got 90 seconds before pit lane opens, and really once pit lane opens, everyone has to get straight out. With only a minute, there's no time to waste to get back onto the grid and get ready for the race to start at 4:35 local time.
And there we can see just quick restart procedure, pit lane to open for 1 minute ahead of the signing lap. So we will have one mechanic down there waiting again, and we will be back racing as soon as possible. And Steve, I believe you have just received an update from the Yamaha team about the state of Michael van der Mark's bike. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the race will restart at 4:35, but it will be without Michael van der Mark. Van der Mark unable to get that bike repaired, so the Yamaha rider will be on the sidelines watching. Chaz Davis, as you can see, that gives him another position on the grid as well. So Davis on the number 7 Ducati, just picking up another spot there. But Michael van der Mark, after such a strong performance yesterday to finish in the top 5, it's disappointing to see him out of the race now. But 30 seconds until pit lane opens, and you can see Michael van der Mark's teammate Alex Lowes is on board with the English rider's bike, and he's just about to come out and make his way to the grid.
And a great view there of his gear shift foot again. I believe that Yamaha actually found a problem with the gear shifter that Lowes was having because of that onboard shot there. We can see the number 22 climbing on board. That now familiar view of his left boot.
You can see those just bouncing out through the box. He's clearly feeling confident, he's clearly feeling ready. It looked at just before the red flag came out that he actually had more pace than Marco Melandri and was really closing that gap. So Lowes on the Yamaha looking strong, but you can see the rest of the field now starting to come out. Jonathan Ray just alongside Chaz Davis rolling down pit lane, and it'll be a surprise if these two are alongside each other on the track during this race.
I don't think it's beyond impossible. I think that Chaz Davies could do it, but we will soon see. Just 30 seconds left to leave pit lane. You don't want to get caught out here. We saw that when these quick restart rules were brought into the Moto2 and Moto3 World Championships, that there were some teams who hadn't quite read the rulebook, but hopefully everybody here in this World Superbike paddock is up to speed. Their frantic work continuing on the bike of Michael van der Mark, but with no covers on the top of that bike, and them still looks to be pulling out the top of the engine as well. Does look like you were unfortunately correct, Steve, and Michael van der Mark won't be restarting this race, as we see Hayden just leave pit lane, get tucked in behind that CBR 1000, just double checking that everything is working okay as he starts to stretch the legs of that Honda down the back straight.
Yeah, Nicky Hayden, the last rider to leave the pit lane. Pit lane is now closed, so Nicky Hayden will come through to start 8th on the grid for the Honda rider. And you can see just rounding turn 3, this is where we saw Chaz Davis have that crash in the early stages of the race. Davis will be 18th on the grid, as we said, taking a little bit of profit from Michael van der Mark not able to make the start. We're riding on board with the Welsh rider, and he's going to need to be at his best in this race to be able to fight through the pack, and you can see the damage to his leathers from a couple of crashes this weekend. But Davis is going to have to be at his best to come through from 18th to get through to the front. But we know how strong he is off the line. We saw it in race 1, but you can see just how disappointed Michael van der Mark is to be on the outside looking in from the Yamaha pit box.
Yeah, exactly. Still keeping his helmet and gloves on just in case there is some last minute miracle, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it. There we see Lowes just looking for a way up the inside between the two Kawasaki's. Looks like Lorenzo Savadori's bike is now being transported back to the pits as well from the inside of the track. Of course, it was the crash and issue for Savadori that did bring out the red flag. Here we go, forming up on the grid. There will be one more warm-up lap after this before we go racing once again. There is Chaz Davies. A second chance has been thrown. He has a lifeline there. What can he make of this second chance? Second chances don't come around too often, especially in racing. The Ducati team there, tension in the box as they wait to see what will happen. Tom Sykes rolling up into 4th place, just ahead of Leon Cami. Here is the full grid. Jonathan Ray ahead of Marco Melandri. Lowes there ahead of Sykes, Camia, and Eugene Lavity up there in 6th. Pretty strong start from the Irishman again. Torres there in 7th ahead of Nick Hayden. Mike Van Mark doesn't look like he'll be lining up. Torres still in 10th. De Angelis in 11th ahead of Krumanacher. Stefan Bridle in 13th. Russo making up for that penalty in 14th ahead of Reiderberger, Ramos, Jacek Badavini, and then Chaz Davies all alone on row 7 for the factory Ducati rider. How many spaces will he make up into turn 1? I think it'll be within the points almost straight away, but only time will tell. Just a couple more minutes until this race is underway as they go for their last warm-up lap around the Chain International Circuit. Hopefully the second part of the race will go off without a hitch.
Yeah, I think if you were setting the over-under for Chaz Davis, you'd probably be looking at around about P10, P11 at the end of the opening lap. But the Welshman, as we said, given another chance, and now he has to make the most of that. But we will see Jonathan Ray once again start from pole, and now the question is, can anyone go with him in those initial laps? We saw Marco Melandri do it in the first 3 or 4 laps, but really start to lose the pace once Ray hit the front. We saw Alex Lowes really pick up his pace and get quite close to Marco Melandri just before the red flag. So we should see quite a good battle for the podium. It's just a question of if anyone is able to go with this man, Jonathan Rea, on the number 1 Kawasaki.
Exactly. Ray's plan yesterday was head down, push from turn 1. He'll again be starting from pole. No doubt with that same plan in mind. We saw him dominate a flag-to-flag victory yesterday. Can he do it again now that he is on pole position? Or have the likes of Melandri, Lowe's and Tom Sykes found that little something extra overnight to take the fight to the number 1? The reigning world champion, the double world champion, Jonathan Rea, as he comes around turn 12. Just riding over that cement dust, quickly checking what the grip levels are like. We're seeing Nicky Hayden there looking to form up. Tom Sykes just ahead of him. Sykes will, of course, start from 4th place, the head of the second row. But is that man there who starts at the head of the field? Jonathan Rea, the number 1 in the number 1 spot. Perariba looks on once again. Chaz Davies starting at the back. Big mountain climb for Davies. He is always up for a challenge. There you can see most of the grid. Just the last couple of stragglers making their way to their grid positions.
An empty space for Michael van der Mark as well. But you can see Jonathan Rea now shaking the head to get himself ready. Marco Melandri second on the grid. Alex Lowe's third on the grid for this restarted 16-lap race here at the Chang International Circuit.
Exactly, the red flag has been taken away. Turn your attention to the lights very quick. Here we go, racing is back underway in Thailand. A great start from Marco Melandri. Again, off like a rocket. Lowe's still up there as well. It looks like it will be. No, it's Jonathan Rea around the outside of Marco Melandri to lead on the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, good start from Sykes initially, but able to get through on Alex Lowe's now and into third. But Chaz Davies down the back of the field with a good start from the Welshman, and he's able just to push his way through from 19th on the grid all the way up to 10th through the first corner. So great start from Davis.
Marco Melandri up the inside to regain the lead ahead of Jonathan Rea. Tom Sykes up to 3rd. Lowe's there ahead of Lavity rounding out the top 5. Melandri there trying to stretch the legs of the Ducati to break away from that Kawasaki pair, but it looks like Jonathan's up the inside again through turn 4. Yes, he does seize the lead through turn 4 as they make their way down to turn 5. Looks like Sykes is also looking for a way through on Melandri. Can't quite do it. Melandri with a nice tight line there to defend from Tom Sykes as Jonathan seizes the lead. Looks like Chaz Davies continuing to pick up positions now right behind Stefan Bradl there.
Yeah, and a good start from Eugene Laverty as well. He's into the top 5 and right behind Alex Lowe's in that scrap for 4th. You can see Tom Sykes, as you said, able to convert that into 3rd on the opening lap. So Tom Sykes right in there in the fight. We know how good he is here as well. Last year he won a race and was 2nd as well. So Tom Sykes hoping they'll just be able to take that fight to Melandri. Yesterday he made the move in the last corner of the race on Melandri. He needs to make that move right now if he's to have any chance of fighting his teammate Jonathan Rea.
And here we come on the brakes through turn 12 where that cement dust is for the first time. Everybody testing it. Yep, it does look like everybody is through okay as Jonathan Rea is in the lead. 0.2 of a second ahead of Marco Melandri. Tom Sykes there about even as Melandri tries to close in on Jonathan Rea at the front.
Yeah, and in the background it looked like Chaz Davies was able to get through on Stefan Bradl over the line, but the Welshman now into the top 10.
Decent points for Davies, all things considered, and still 15 laps to go in this race as Marco Melandri continues to hound the back of Jonathan Rea's Kawasaki.
And you can see the different approaches into turn 3 that each of these riders are taking, with Jonathan Rea a little bit more of a sweeping line compared to what Marco Melandri's using. But Melandri's so fast down that straight that if he's able to get up within an inch of Jonathan Rea, he'll be able to try and make those moves. You can see a big gap developing between Tom Sykes and the battle for 4th with Eugene Laverty ahead of Alex Lowe's now, but Lowe's trying to answer back on his former teammate.
Yeah, meanwhile it looks like Torres is bringing the likes of Camia, Hayden, looks like De Angelis in there as well. Davies now back ahead of Stefan Bradl just behind. So some great battles going on throughout the field. Here we go, battling forth with Eugene Laverty doing so well on that Aprilia, now close to where he wants to be, but it doesn't look like Lowe's again looking up the inside. The Brit can't quite do it on the Yamaha. Some good corner exit there as he dives back up the inside on the number 50. Oh, forcing Eugene Laverty to stand up.
Yeah, and that's a real aggressive move from Lowe's there to get down the inside of Laverty. Laverty almost having just to stand the bike up. That's the kind of riding that we've seen in the past from Alex Lowe's, just really aggressive, but able to hold the line, and and you can see in the background just Chaz Davis now trying to get down the inside of Alex Janssens, who was a big head shake on the way into the last corner, but Davis now into 9th position as they come through the dust And Davis' next target is the 69 Honda of Nicky Hayden.
Yeah, exactly. Elbows there between De Angelis and Davies, as Davies just runs a bit wide onto the rumble strip. Jonathan Ray with a fast slap of the race of 133.681 as he, Melandri and Sykes continue to break away. But it does look like Sykes is just sort of setting his own pace there in third, still within a second of the lead, but not going close up a fair bit there through turn 3 on Marco Melandri. Tom Sykes still very much in this battle for the lead. Looks like it does. Yep, that hard move from Lowe's has stuck and is now ahead of Eugene Laverty. Laverty trying to hold off the likes of Torres and Leon Cameo. Looks like Laverty's making up a fair bit of ground on Lowe's as Jonathan Ray continues to just put in those super consistent times through each sector, slowly edging a 10th here, a 10th there over Marco Melandri.
Yeah, and you can see just on the way back from Jonathan Ray, you can see the odd glance of Marco Melandri's helmet, the Italian, right there with the Kawasaki rider. The key question is going to be is, can Melandri keep up this kind of pace? We saw yesterday, even just in the short 4-lap race, he was able to go with Jonathan in those initial stages, but then the tyre starts to drop for him and he's not able to maintain the same pace as Jonathan Ray. You can see thumbs up from Jonathan Ray, and indeed he's been able to accomplish everything he needed to do in the restart race, consolidate his lead and just get to the front.
That's a great first couple of laps here for Jonathan Ray as he does continue to lead Marco Melandri, trying to stick with him. Thomas Sykes looks to be making up ground on Marco Melandri as well. Sykes, of course, benefiting from that double slipstream down the straight. Marco Melandri there with the fastest lap of the race so far, 133.644 as Chaz Davies looks for a way through Nicky Hayden. Not quite far enough, but Davies is now well and truly involved in that battle for about 4th or 5th place. Lowe's opening up a fair bit of an advantage over Laverty, about 0.8 of a second. Yeah,
4.5 seconds behind the race leaders for Chaz Davis, but looks like he's able to try and make the move under braking on Nicky Hayden into turn 3. Davis taking 8th position, and really the key thing for him is try and get that gap towards Alex Lowe's and Eugene Laverty. Aim for 4th right now, because these 3 race leaders look like they've been able to open up a bit of a gap. You can see in the back of the screen just the yellow helmet of Chaz Davis, P8 for the number 7 Ducati.
Marco Melandri in that Kawasaki sandwich as they come through the turn 5, 6 and 7 complex. Lowe still pretty comfortably ahead of Eugene Laverty as we look at our commentary box position, the number 33 of Marco Melandri chasing the number 1 of Jonathan Ray. Looks like Lowe's is actually starting to gain on this leading group as well. Lowe's also in the mid to low 133s that last lap. It is still Jonathan Ray in control with 13 laps to go around this Bury Ram circuit as they come through turn 10 now.
And you can see the key gap right now is that 7/10 between Davis and Leon Cameo. Davis needs to try and get through the field. You can see Leon Cameo just at the top of the screen, and it's Chaz Davis chasing him down now. Davis, after that crash, he's been able to really compose himself, make a great start and get into the thick of things, and now he just needs to pick off riders with 12 laps remaining. You can see it's still Jonathan Ray out in front from Marco Melandri. Last time around, Ray was able to eke out just a couple of hundredths from the Ducati rider, with Tom Sykes also pretty much on the same pace, round about 1/4 of a second faster than Alex Lowe's, who pulled out another 1/2 a second on Eugene Laverty. So it's around about 1.5 seconds for Alex Lowe's in 4th to Eugene Laverty in 5th. So a little bit of a lonely start to the race for Alex Lowe's. You can see here's Chaz Davis on the number 7 Ducati coming down into turn 3, where he had that crash in the first race. But the Welshman recovering well, and right there with Leon Cameo. Good stuff from Cameo as well. He's been having a difficult start to the season in terms of reliability problems on the MV Augusta, but once we've gone racing, he's been strong all the way. You can see a replay of the race, restart, and Chaz Davis able to come from 19th all the way through to 10th on the first corner. Great stuff from Davis.
There's a tries to ride around the outside of Randy Kuminaka. We go on board with Chaz Davies. An absolutely incredible view there. He blasts past Russo, past Ryderberger, around the outside of Ramos. They're not quite able to get through on Stefan Bradley. A couple of riders ahead. Looks like Flores running a bit wide. There is tucked in, sliding past Kuminaka, and right in that group already. Davies continuing to close down the gap to Cameo, and then ahead of him there's Torres and Laverty. The top 5 is certainly on the cards for Chaz Davies as those leading two continue to extend, now about 3 seconds clear of that chasing group. Chaz Davies continuing to close in almost every single corner.
Yeah, and you can see Davis just sliding on the way into that final corner again, but it's Bradle down at the last corner. So again, the Honda riders, just a difficult weekend for them, difficult start to the season. Bradle He's been talking about how inconsistent the bike has been throughout the weekend, and he's caught out at the last corner. We did see, obviously, the oil down at that last corner, so maybe the dust just catching out Stefan Bradl.
And here we go, yeah. He just lost the front, just slid off, trying to follow his teammate, Nicky Hayden. He looks okay, looks like the right handlebar of that Honda is pretty badly damaged, so it doesn't look like he will be able to rejoin this race. Very lonely ride there for Lowe's, just in the middle of your shot, as Jonathan Rea continues to just slowly build a pretty steady lead over Marco Melandri there. Just a couple of hundredths of a second. Sykes closing it down to Melandri as well. Definitely one to watch. We saw Sykes come pretty strong at the end of the race when he was, again, chasing Marco Melandri in race 1.
Yeah, both Melandri and Sykes had problems with the brakes in race 1, but maybe this shortened race will help both just be able to get the most from that bike. The gap between Rea and Melandri right now is about a half a second. Last time around, Rea was able to pick up about a tenth of a second on Melandri. You can see him just eking out that little bit of a gap here after 5 laps. Jonathan Rea, the world champion, just able just to carry that little bit more in each sector compared to Marco Melandri and just pull away slightly. You can see at the top of the screen, Jordi Torres round about now attacking Eugene Laverty on the way into that final corner. Torres, of course, previously rode that Aprilia a couple of years ago, had a win on it in Qatar, but it's been different fortunes on the BMW, but he's looking good this weekend.
Yet meanwhile, as we watch Chaz Davies close down on his good friend Leon Camier and Torres try and slide up the inside of Eugene Laverty, it does look like Randy Krumnaka has been forced to retire from this race. A disappointing race 2 for a Swiss rider, now to 16 riders left in this race. Chaz Davies there, riding the slipstream of Leon Camier. Both of those guys very, very tall, both 6 foot at least. Big right legs come out. Davies very hot into that turn 3, once again taking a slightly wider line to Leon Camier, the number 2 versus the number 7, both on Italian machinery. Of course, Camier on that MV Augusta, Davies on that Ducati. Ducati with huge success here in World Superbike throughout its history. MV Augusta not quite as successful.
Yeah, MV Augusta still looking for that podium, and Leon Camier came close to it last year, but out in front, Jonathan Rea has opened the gap to around about a second to Marco Melandri. Last time around, he was half a second faster than the Ducati rider. So just like what we saw yesterday, Jonathan Rea able to fight with the other guys at the front in those initial laps, but then able just to continue grinding out fast times and open a gap. You can see Chaz Davies just getting bottled up a little bit here and really losing that time, losing that gap to the guys that he needs to be getting through and fighting with. He's 7 seconds behind the race leader right now, which puts him about 6 seconds behind Marco Melandri and 3 or 4 seconds behind Alex Lowe. So he needs to get through here and get back up into that fight inside the top 4.
And I think it's a big testament to just how well Leon Camier is riding for him to be able to hold off Chaz Davies for this long, as once again both Davies and Torres look for a way through on Laverty and Camier respectively. Can the BMW outpace the Aprilia of Laverty down the straight? No, it can't quite do it. There's Eugene Laverty who still continues to lead that battle for 5th as both Camier and Davies continue to hunt down the Irishman and the Spaniard just ahead of them. Meanwhile, Marco Melandri closed a couple of hundredths on Johnny Rea, but Johnny Rea now has over a second advantage over the Italian at the front.
And you can see Davis just shaking out the head on the way into the corner. Does well to actually get the bike pulled up, and Camier still able to stay in front. Last time around, Davis was about a second slower than Marco Melandri, so we know how much pace is in that Ducati and how much he's just being curtailed right now. But even having that extra pace, it's still difficult to make moves around this Bury-Ram circuit.
Exactly, a great battle for 5th here. Torres trying all he can to find a gap any way through on Eugene Laverty. A couple of bike lengths between them as well. Chaz Davies much closer to Leon Camier just behind. A pretty solid ride here from Eugene Laverty. Definitely the best this Aprilia has been riding so far this season. Good to see him doing it for the Sean Moore team with Lorenzo Savadori, unfortunately out of action after that red flag causing crash.
And so we're riding on board with Jonathan Rea now in the gap up to 1.3 seconds. Jonathan Rea, just iron consistency from him once more again. You can see everything that we've known from Johnny over the course of the last couple of years. Once he hits the front, he's able just to set lap times after lap time, and that's exactly what he's doing now. The gap 1.4 seconds to Marco Melandri. Last time around, Jonathan pulled out another couple of tenths on the Italians. So the key thing is going to be now Sykes and Melandri. Can Tom Sykes close in on Melandri? It's around about 3/4 of a second. We saw the same yesterday. Tom Sykes really recovering well in the closing stages of the races and overtaking Melandri to get on the podium.
Yeah, but Melandri continues to routinely be the fastest through that first sector. Of course, Melandri a fair bit smaller than both Ray and Sykes, and that Ducati pretty quick as Chaz Davies once again looks for a way through on Leon Cameo. It looks like turn 3 is causing Chaz Davies 1 or 2 headaches, even still constantly just running in a bit hot.
It's the different lines you can take into turn 3, lots of variety into that corner. But you can see Chaz Davies now just trying to get down the inside into turn 4. Difficult to make a move there. Such a fast corner. But you can see just how difficult overtaking is here. Jordi Torres looks like he's a lot faster than Eugene Laverty.
Laverty goes down. Just looking out of our commentary box, Eugene Laverty has lost the front. There he is on your screens, losing the front of that Aprilia at turn 5 as he tries to hold off Jordi Torres. Bit of a commentator's curse, unfortunately, there for you, Steve. Laverty trying to restart that bike. Looks like that left handlebar is quite damaged. Here we go, here's the replay.
Yeah, but you can see Laverty over the course of the last few laps, he has been having to ride so defensively with Torres attacking him, and in this case it's just a case of the front end folding for Laverty there in a crash. But really Laverty didn't have the same pace as those guys he was fighting with, and probably just right on that limit. But Laverty is now out of the race. Chaz Davies has gotten through on Leon Camier, and now the key thing is, can he get through on Torres quickly? The gap between Torres and Alex Lowe's in 4th is round about 4 seconds, so it's a big ask with 7 laps to go for Chaz Davies to be able to get through on Torres and get into that top 4.
Exactly, especially because that lap sure he was coming through traffic, but Chaz Davies was 0.8 of a second slower than Lowe's in the low 134s.
Yep. If Lowe's is able to stay in the low 34s, there's no chance that Chaz Davies will have of catching him. The key thing now is, can he get through on Jordi Torres as quickly as possible? The BMW is working well here, and Chaz Davies has done really well to just get through the pack. You can see Leon Camier, a bit of smoke coming out from the MV Augusta rider there. Maybe it's a little bit of cement dust from a Super Sport engine issue there earlier in the day. You can see Chaz Davies really on the limit there, backing the bike into turn 4, and just trying to get right behind Jordi Torres and make the move as quickly as he can.
Nicky Hayden rapidly gaining on Leon Camier. Hopefully everything is okay with that MV, which looks like maybe another puff of smoke there, not quite sure, but Nicky Hayden is definitely now rapidly gaining on the tall British rider. Fair play to Jordi Torres. He's continuing to hold his own at the front of this little battle here for 5th place. Meanwhile, Lowe's, yep, here comes Nicky Hayden through on Leon Camier. Leon Camier forced to stand up as we watch Chaz Davies try and chase down Jordi Torres. Yep, there is definitely an issue with that MV Augusta. It is smoking. There is smoke pouring out of the rear of that bike, as Nicky Hayden has now gotten ahead of him. Hopefully Leon Camier can finish that race as more puffs of smoke keep coming out from the number 2 machine. Nicky Hayden now back inside the top 10 in 8th place. Okay, the orange and black flag has been shown for number 2, Leon Camier. He has been informed to stop for a technical issue. Yep, it does look like he is running on here at turn 1, trying to unfortunately retire from the race. The head goes down, he looks down at his boot. They've had a pretty consistent problem with that engine and with some oil leaks throughout this weekend, and unfortunately it doesn't look like it has worked. Meanwhile, out the front, Jonathan Ray, we haven't got to see much of him this race, and that's because unfortunately he's 2 seconds ahead of Marco Melandri, but Marco Melandri once again, deja vu for the Italian, as he comes under a lot of pressure now from Tykes. There you can see beautiful light from the evening sun. No doubt all the photographers out on track will be loving this. Marco Melandri, that lap, did a 1:34.0. Tom Sykes just marginally faster than the Italian, and Tom Sykes very, very fast through those 2 middle sectors when compared to Marco Melandri.
Yeah, Harry, golden light right now around the tight circuit, but the golden opportunity for Tom Sykes to try and get through, pick up 20 points. But Marco Melandri, this is where he needs to dig deep. This is where we see just how race sharp he is if he's able to defend from Tom Sykes and learn from yesterday, when obviously it was a technical issue with a little bit of a brake fade firm that opened the door for Tom Sykes. But let's see what he's able to do, and if he's able to adjust in these final 5 laps at the Buriram International Circuit. You can see Jonathan Ray, 2.5 second lead for Jonathan, but last time around again just eked out another 3/4 of a second from Ray, just consistently in those 33s, just like he was yesterday. And you can see once again Tom Sykes just starting to close in on Marco Melandri as the race progresses. The Ducati rider just not able to really maintain that speed, and it's the same as what we saw yesterday. So let's see if Melandri is able just to make it difficult to overtake, because we've seen with the likes of Chaz Davies on the number 7 Ducati just how difficult it is to make moves even when you're the faster rider.
Exactly, and despite falling Eugene Laverty is now back into the points, 15th place thanks to the retirement of Leon Camier. So at least 1 point to take away for Eugene Laverty as we watch Lowe's there. Very lonely ride for the British rider, being pretty much on his own from the word go.
A lonely ride, but as it stands, Lowe's in the top 4 once again, and this, just building on what he did in Australia with 2 top 4s as well. Really strong start to the season. 6th position yesterday, just consolidating what he did in the winter. Made a great move on Eugene Laverty, aggressive down the inside of Laverty, but made it stick. And he's been rewarded now with a race where really he doesn't have the pace to go with the Ducatis or the Kawasaki's in front of him, but he's able just to pull away from the guys behind him and really maximise what he can get from that Yamaha. And right now he's about 7 seconds behind the race leader, but he's got a comfortable 4-second gap to the guys behind him, consistently running in the low to mid 34s, and just solid stuff from Lowe's. Behind that, it's still Jordi Torres and Chaz Davis. So Davis still behind the BMW, trying to get through and get into the top 5. If Davis is able to do that, it is actually quite good consolidation of what he could have achieved from this race, given that he had that crash in the initial start.
Yeah, exactly. About half a second between those two as they went across the line. Interesting to see if the slipstream will be able to help Davies close in on Jordi Torres, or if Davies can. It's been at half a second for a fair few laps now, but as you say, a top 5 for Chaz Davies would be absolutely incredible given the circumstances.
The top 5 for Chaz Davis would be a great result. Right now we've got a top 10 for Roman Ramos as well. So strong stuff from the Kawasaki rider to be able to get inside the top 10.
Angela's also inside the top 10, just on the bubble, ahead of Reiterberger. Reiterberger about 1.3 seconds back on the former MotoGP podium man in 11th.
And you can see the progression through the race for Chaz Davis. Started 19th and just worked his way through the field nicely. 11th at the end of the first lap, and then picked off riders as the race progressed. Jordi Torres under a lot of pressure now, and this is a really good ride from Torres to be able to hold off Chaz Davis for the last few laps. Now the key thing is, can he do it for another 3.5 laps and claim 5th place, which would be a great result for the BMW rider and the Altea squad.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely incredible result. This would be his best result since race 1 at Lausitz Ring last year when he was 4th. So a stand-up job for Jordi Torres if he can hold off Chaz Davies. Even if he can't, a 6th place for the BMW is very, very well earned.
Of course, that was also in the wet at Lausitz Ring on the opening race that weekend. So good stuff from Torres. He said all weekend he's right on the limit of the BMW, but looked nicely composed throughout this race. Hasn't made too many mistakes, and he's just been able to grind out solid pace throughout. In front of these guys still, it's Jonathan Ray in front, but it's Melandri and Sykes just getting closer and closer. Last time around, Sykes picked up another couple of tenths of a second on the Ducati riders, so maybe we'll see the Kawasaki once again in the last couple of laps of the race really attack the Ducati and try and make those moves.
Yeah, but it does look like we are going to have an almost identical repeat potentially of that first race, as Tom Sykes does continue to just slowly eke a 10th here, a 10th there on Marco Melandri. Slowly, about a quarter of a second there between the two rivals. A 2nd place finish for Tom Sykes would be absolutely fantastic, that is for sure. Would be his best finish of the season so far, of course, with a 3rd in race 1 here and a 3rd in race 1 in Australia, and then a 6th place in that 2nd Phillip Island battle. But is still provisionally Marco Melandri who leads ahead of Tom Sykes in their battle for 2nd place. As we said, 3.5 seconds clear for Jonathan Ray now, and then Lowe's about 4 seconds back on the red and green bikes. Torres still holding off Chaz Davies, able to maintain about a quarter of a second gap over the Welsh rider. Nicky Hayden, great to see him up there in 7th place, ahead of Flores as well.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff from Hayden on the Honda to be able to get himself into the right positions inside the top 10. It's been a difficult weekend, as we said, for the Honda team, but with Stefan Bradl having crashed out, it's good to see Hayden on that new Fireblade able to run inside the top 7.
And once again, this will be one of the 2 battles to watch as we begin the penultimate lap of this 16-lap restarted race at the Chang International Circuit. Can Chaz Davies put a last lap move through on Jordi Torres? Can Tom Sykes put a last lap move through on Marco Melandri ahead? Davies once again getting that Kawasaki, getting that Ducati very sideways through turn 3, slightly wider line there. Jordi Torres on the BMW taking a much tighter line as Chaz Davies then gets the power down on the straight to try and close down the Catalan rider.
And you can see a decent gap there for Torres riding well on the BMW, but Davis needs to pick up around about 0.2 of a second, the gap between the two. But you can see Davis, again, just like what we saw with Leon Camier, faster in different areas of the track, but not in areas where you're able to really make the moves. But the Ducati rider right there with the BMW and trying to force his way through for fifth.
Yeah, it does seem like in the second and third sector that Chaz Davies is a bit stronger than Jordi Torres and is able to make up a bit of time. Meanwhile, here we go, the battle out the front of the battle for a second. Just as Jonathan Ray is already rounding the last corner to begin the final lap. Here it is, Tom Sykes continuing to try and close in on Marco Landry. About 1 or 2 bike lengths between the two rivals.
And you can see now we've got 4.5 kilometres to go. 4.5 kilometres for Tom Sykes to try and get through Marco Melandri, and Chaz Davis to do the same on Jordi Torres. Two of the title contenders, both of them needing to make moves. And you can see Alex Lowes, P4 for Lowes right now. A lonely race, as we said, but a strong race once again from the Englishman.
Chaz Davies there working as hard as he can, pushing that Ducati to the limit to try and close in on Torres. Number 81 versus number 7. That gap between the two is currently at about half a second as they make their way towards turn 3. It doesn't look like Davies is going to be close enough unless there's a pretty big mistake from Jordi Torres. Still, to start from the back and make his way up in the 6th place is an absolutely unbelievable achievement for Chaz Davies. Damage limitation, job done there. Potentially 30 points separating him and Jonathan Ray, as Ray is on track to become the first rider since Neil Hodgson in 2003 to win the opening 4 races. But here we go. Our attention turns to the battle for second. Marco Melandri versus Tom Sykes. Melandri has managed to just maintain that 1/4 of a second gap as they make their way towards the final sector on track, just rounding turn 8 there, making their way through turn 9. Can Tom Sykes carry that speed? It does look like he's slowly gaining on Melandri. Will he save it for the last corner, just as he did in race 1? Here we go, through turn 11, there's just 1 corner left. Tom Sykes right in the slipstream, he pulls out very early, hard on the brakes, tries to get ahead of Marco Melandri. Melandri pulls in his knee. Tom Sykes does go ahead. Can Marco Melandri get the drive off the line? No, it is Tom Sykes who manages to make it a Kawasaki 1-2. Jonathan Ray wins 4 in a row. Stand up and take a bow, sir. Alex Lowes there, another incredible 4th place. Jordi Torres lifts that front wheel high in the air of the BMW. 6th for Chaz Davies. Not too bad at all, sir. Nicky Hayden crosses the line in 7th place. Flores 8th. Roman Ramos in 9th. Great result of him. Ryder Berger managed to get past Ange dropping down to 11th on that last lap. Hectic 16 lap action here. Jonathan Ray, a perfect start to his title defence. Fastest laps everywhere. Pole positions 2 this season, 3 in a row in total, and now 4 wins in a row. The 200th race victory for British riders. Another great honour. Of course, Brit's always done very well in this World Superbike Championship. Carl Fogarty, Neil Hodgson, James Toseland, just a couple of the great British riders who have come through here, won championships, won a lot of races. That man there has also won a fair few races. It wasn't to be today for Chaz Davies, the number 7 rider. 13 places he made up, from 19th on the grid for that restart, up into 6th place. 30 points behind that man there, who has scored 100 from 100 in the opening 4 races. Kawasaki grandstand going absolutely ballistic outside our commentary box position there. You can see a big Kawasaki flag being waved. It would have been hard work waving a flag that big all day long. 25 minutes and 2 seconds for that slightly shorter race. There, just final confirmation. Jonathan Ray has won that race. Just trying to get a bit of cool air there. Tom Sykes, another great last lap from Sykes. You know, we said we maybe had some doubts about Tom Sykes' aggression with this race 2 format, but he proved us wrong in that race, able to fight his way through to 2nd place, 3rd in the championship with 42 points for the British rider. A great ride from Tom Sykes. That Kawasaki working so well around this Brewery Ram circuit, continuing their 100% record here. 6 wins in 6 races for the KRT team. Here it is, the overtake for 2nd place. Tom Sykes late and hard on those brakes, manages to just cut off Marco Melandri's line. He lined that up beginning at about turn 9, carried as much corner speed as he could through the turn 9, 10 and 11 flip-flops there, and then just stuck it up the inside. No worries about the track condition there for Tom Sykes. The Ducati team understandably frustrated to miss out on that second place, but still, Marco Melandri, another top 5 finish, a second podium in 4 races for the returning Italian as people begin to start to filter out of this Chang International Circuit. All the riders there congratulating Jonathan Ray on a race well done, a job well done. Marco Melandri there. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for Melandri, but third place still puts him 5th overall in the championship with 29 points. Of course, a DNF in Australia race 1, hurting his chances a bit. Lowe's is 4th with 36 points. But there we go, 100 points from 100 points for Jonathan. Mission accomplished. Done everything he needed to do. 4 seconds ahead of his teammate Tom Sykes there. Melandri in 3rd, ahead of Lowe's, Torres, Davies, Hayden in 7th. Stellar result for the American. Flores, Ramos in the top 10. Great result for him and the Go 11 team. Ryderberger there in 10th. De Ange dropping to 11th right at the end. Russo up from 12th after that penalty. Jezek there with a couple of points. Badavini with 2 points. And then Eugene Laverty picks up a single point despite crashing. So there's proof that you should always get back on your bike if it is safe to do so. There we do have the championship standings. Ray 100, Davies with 70, Sykes, Lowe's, Melandri, Flores, Torres, Vandermark, despite not starting race 2, still ahead of Camia, Hayden, Laverty in 11th spot, Ryderberger there in 12th, and about 85 points down on the lead up. There is Nicky Hayden just walking back down pit lane, wave to the camera. Pretty tiring work there from Nicky Hayden, as you can tell, looking a little bit drained. Thai fans there eager to get a look at those 3 stellar podium finishes. The ice vest back on again for Jonathan Ray as he does try and get that core temperature down, try and cool off. A bit of help from Ben Cobb from Dorna there to put his leathers back on before he makes his way to start doing some interviews in Parc Fermé. Marco Melandri there's pouring a bottle of water over his head as well. There you can see just part of the Kawasaki grandstand. It does go right down from the bottom to the top. Chaz Davies, 6th place. Understandably a little frustrated by that one. There he says roll on the next round in Aragon. Of course, Aragon, a round that Chaz Davies has made his own, did the double there with BMW and with Ducati, as it looks like we will now be hearing from Marco Melandri with Steve down in pit lane.
Marco Melandri, another podium and another good fight with Tom Sykes in this race.
Yeah, he has no respect for the old people. two times, same pass, but for me it was very tough. I was struggling with the front brake from the first few laps, and I have to adjust the remote control 3-4 times per lap, and I knew it was going to pass because the level was touching my hand when I was braking, so I couldn't be very, very strong. But anyway, be back on the podium, it's huge. Thanks to my team, to Ducati guys, Aruba, and all the sponsors. Can't wait to be back in Europe now.
Thanks Marco, and just some words in Italian.
Ma è stata una gara molto difficile perché anche oggi ho provato ad andare dietro a Johnny, ma non avevo il passo. Sia ieri che oggi ho avuto problemi con i freni e dovevo continuare a registrarlo 4-5 volte al giro perché mi arrivava la leva contro la mano e sempre di più nell'ultima frenata, quella più incisiva. Quindi Tom aveva vita facile lì e peccato. Comunque essere sul podio è fantastico e ringrazio davvero tutto il team Ducati Aruba, i ragazzi che lavorano con noi e la mia famiglia e tutti quelli che seguono la Superbike.
Grazie Marco.
Brake issues once again, unfortunately, for Marco Melandri. Saw him struggle a bit from the start. And as he said once again, Tom Sykes, same move, same lap, same place. Unfortunately, demoting that man there a position once again. But he will be able to regroup, as he said, Marco Melandri. Looking forward to returning to Europe. Jordi Torres there, pleased as punch. You'd think he'd won the race with how happy he is, but 5th place, an absolutely excellent result for Jordi Torres and for that Altea BMW team. Torres definitely one of the guys who plays it up to the camera a fair bit in the paddock, and now it does look like Tom Sykes is coming over to have a chat with Steve.
Tom Sykes, another last lap move on Marco Melandri. Just talk us through it again.
Yeah, I reckon he won't be buying me any coffees anytime soon, but no, you know, struggled all weekend a little bit. Like I said, I've been working hard in the winter to try and overcome some limitations, and just have to change the way I ride a little bit, and it shows because on the last lap I did you know, 33.6 and maybe my fastest lap of the race. So I've still got a little bit to understand to take the best from, you know, from this current model, but I'll keep working. Today was hot, greasy conditions, something that normally works against us. So we were chipping away. I tried, kept going to the last lap and managed to get second position. So overall, not a bad weekend. Great for Kawasaki 1-2, and we'll move on and try and build with this momentum.
Nice, Tom.
Work still there to do for Tom Sykes, as he admits himself, but a third place and a second place finish. Not a bad weekend. There you go. Once again, the last corner, providing us with a huge amount of action. Tom Sykes, nice clean move there on Marco Melandri, as Sykes understandably said. Probably no coffees bought by Melandri when we head to Aragon, but it was a nice, fair and clean move, so no hard feelings down the line. Of course, huge respect between all of the guys in the World Superbike Championship. You have to have that respect when you are racing so close, and huge respect to this man here, four-time race winner in 2014, Jonathan Ray.
Jonathan Ray, 4 race wins to start the season, and this must have been so much more than you could have expected going into the flyways.
Yeah, this is my best ever start to a season. I mean, I'm feeling good with the bike, and that race was, I was so nervous about the 9th place start, to be honest, because this track's so hard to pass, especially with the speed of the Ducatis now, and Melandri is so hard to pass. But I'm really lucky this weekend. I had sector 3 pretty dialed, and as soon as I got into some clean air at T4, I put my head down and managed to snap Marco after 3 or 4 laps. So now this is a massive thanks to all my team, all our technical partners for all their support, and all my mechanics and the guys. It's been a hot weekend and they've been working relentlessly, so these race wins this weekend are for them. Thanks very much.
Nice, John.
Best ever start to a season for Jonathan Ray. 2 pole positions and 4 race victories. There's the race winning overtake. He had to work hard to get through on Marco Melandri. There we go, crossing the line. Big shake of the hand, dedicating that win to his team. That side of the KRT garage do work so well together, as we were saying a bit earlier before. Really close-knit group of guys and gals in that KRT team. Now Jonathan heads to Aragon in the perfect position, 100 points there. We can see big thumbs up from the KRT team as they have completed a 1-2 finish here in Thailand. A perfect second race for the Kawasaki team. And another great race there for Lowe's. Let's just hear what he has to say. Maybe couldn't quite catch what he said. Something happened on the warm-up lap there for Lowe's. They're just chatting to another TV broadcaster. Great weekend for Lowe's. Bit of an unfortunate end to the weekend for Vandermark after showing so well during race 1, but sometimes that is unfortunately how the cookie crumbles. And they'll get to do it all again on the 31st of March to the 2nd of April for the Pirelli Aragon round, as the World Superbike Championship returns to Europe and begins the main chunk of its season. There we go, the golf cart ride back across. Reiterberger there, across the line in 10th place. Solid top 10 for the German rider, his teammate in 5th. So double top 10 for BMW. Very solid result there, of course, beating both Honda and Aprilia there. So that'll be important for the championship standings for the manufacturers. Only a very quick drive across the track for the podium men. There you can see Jonathan Ray already getting his feet up, enjoying that race victory a little bit. They'll come across to the inside of the circuit. Their teams then follow them out on foot. Posing for the cameras once again, Jonathan Ray. Is there anything that this man can't do? A perfect start to his title defence. Could he become the first to take 3 titles in a row? There'll certainly be a number of riders who are trying to prove that impossible, but is looking very hard right about now, I must say. There he is. They walk in the order that they finished. Jonathan Ray first, Tom Sykes second, Marco Melandri in 3rd. Melandri there, just getting set to walk up to the podium. Of course, Melandri's first visit to the podium this weekend, unfortunately getting demoted to 4th place in that first race, again by Tom Sykes at the last corner. But once again, back to the top step for that man there, Jonathan Ray. An absolutely incredible weekend for the Irish rider on the Kawasaki racing team ZX10RR. That bike working so well at the Chang International Circuit, but you can be sure that there's going to be a number of riders bringing the fight to him at a number of different European tracks. Least of all, Chaz Davies, the king of Aragon, will be looking to reclaim his crown as Marco Melandri gets the third place trophy from the CMO of Motul Asia Pacific there. Marco Melandri and Tom Sykes is having a bit of a chat in the golf cart across the track. There we have Sykes just lifting up his second place trophy, another bit of silverware for the British rider. And finally, the winner's trophy comes across to Jonathan Ray, his second #1 trophy of the weekend. An absolutely flawless performance there from the Kawasaki team rider. Leads this championship by 30 points. That's more than a race win, so he has opened up a nice buffer over his closest title rival, Chaz Davies, with then Tom Sykes just 38 points behind. There you can see a Kawasaki vehicle getting up there to collect the team's trophy as well. Flowers for him too. Don't want to leave anybody out. A great weekend for the Kawasaki racing team. Both sides of the garage down there to celebrate this
And a great result for Jonathan Ray and Kawasaki here in Bury Ram. 100 points for Jonathan Ray from the first 4 races, and the first man since number 100, Neil Hodgson, claimed that feat during his championship season. You can see how much it means for Parariba and the rest of the Kawasaki Team 65 side of the box.
A big, big weekend for both sides of that box, to be fair, with Tom Sykes claiming 2 podiums as well, keeping his championship challenge well and truly alive, 3rd overall. After this, we're back into Europe as we fly halfway across the world to Spain, to the Motorland Aragon circuit for the Pirelli Aragon round. Aragon is a landscape blessed with castles from the medieval age, huge open plains, big mountain ranges, and the town of Alcaniz is an absolute little treasure there. We can see the Aragon circuit, a brand new modern facility, absolutely wonderful circuit, should produce some more great racing on the 31st of March to the 2nd of April. We can see the last couple of fans just waiting to get 1 or 2 snaps. Big hugs between Team 65, Kawasaki side, the Jonathan Ray side of that Kawasaki box there, as they now begin to walk back to the pits. I'm sure that they'll enjoy celebrating here in Buriram. Fantastic little part of Thailand, I must say. A bit away from the hustle and bustle of Bangkok. Nice kiss there from Jonathan Ray. Selfie for one of the photographers as well. Always time for the fans for Jonathan Ray. Here we go, the final race results. Race 2, of course, unfortunately interrupted by that red flag, but did give us a chance to watch Chaz Davies carve through the field. Well, Jonathan Ray ahead of Sykes, Melandri, Lowe's, Torres, Davies up there in 6th from last on the grid, Hayden, Flores, and then Ramos getting inside the top 10, Mr. Consistency. Marcos Reiderberger was also inside the top 10 ahead of De Angelis, Russo, Jezek and Badavini there scoring points, and Eugene Lavity picking up the very last point despite a crash with only 15 finishes that race. Of course, Leon Camia forced out with a technical problem, Krumenaka retiring early, Bridle crashing out, 11 laps remaining, and then Michael Vandermark being unable to even start the race, unfortunately due to a problem with his engine. The Dutch rider will be looking for a fair bit more when we go back to Europe. And here we go. The Riders' Championship, we've said it so many times, 100 points from 100 on offer for Jonathan Ray. That's 30 clear of Davies, 38 clear of Sykes. Lowe's really strong in 4th there. 4 points clear of Mark and Landry. Flores jumps up to 6th ahead of his compatriot Torres. Vandermark and Camia unfortunately dropped down to 8th and 9th respectively. But still, to be in the top 10 for Camia with all the problems that he's had is a commendable performance. Hayden there moves up into the top 10 with Lavity in 11th. Reiderberger, big gains for Ramos there up to 13th ahead of De Angelis. Savadori drops down after 2 unfortunate races for him. DNF in that second one. Krumenaka there 16th. Bridle in 17th just ahead of Russo. 4 points clear of the Italian rider. Now onto the Teams Championship. It should come as no surprise that it is, of course, KRT, Kawasaki Racing Team, who do lead that championship with 162 points. That's 47 clear of the Ducati team. Then, once again, no surprise, it is Kawasaki who lead Ducati ahead of Yamaha. BMW jump ahead of MV Augusta. Then Honda and Aprilia round out that 7-make battle. ZX-10R has been the bike to have for a fair few years now, but Ducati is still putting the fight, and Yamaha are continuing to come stronger and stronger with the likes of the Lowe's and Vandermark. And we'll leave you now with the highlights from that absolutely unbelievable race. Action and drama in all 3 races here in Buriram. Thank you for joining us for round 2 in Thailand. We can't wait to see you for round 3, the Pirelli Aragon round, once again from the 31st of March to the 2nd of April. We'll catch you then.